so the more it may not actually.
Wow. When's the last time we were here, huh?
Yeah, I don't like.
Well, except for selecting.
How do you work this thing? Is this a chair?
Well, mine was,
Oh, my goodness.
is now, but it wasn't.
Yeah, do you have an extra one?
Not in the best area, right on the edge, I guess.
Now I can't see.
I was told.
So
Say
if
what?
you're more worried about getting to the aisle, that's fine, thank you.
I think we have to, let's try to get the bill every year. And you raise the price too.
Okay, we've got-
Justin, how's it going?
Not bad, yeah.
Okay?
Getting through it.
Yeah. Getting busy?
Absolutely.
Not that you ever get the slack off, right?
A little bit in the winter.
Justin, I'm Lawson.
I'm
I
lost.
don't think we've met, but it's great to.
He's our harbor master.
Of course.
He's the most important guy in town.
I believe that.
Except for Jesse.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Jesse who?
Jesse's the assistant harbor master, huh?
Yes.
Well, we need to check ourselves for ticks first, or? Ready to jump in? Or want to wait a minute?
I think I'm ready. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what we're doing tonight. But I think I've got it.
I'm glad someone does.
I've got an agenda, I've got minutes. Mostly I've got my head. I think we're good to go.
You have minutes, I don't have minutes. You have them in your packet?
Nope.
Oh, you were pretty, okay, yeah.
CEO.
I did look at them, I looked at them online, I didn't print them out. We ready? Jesse, you ready? Okay. We'll call the regular Tremont Planning Board meeting of March 22nd order at 6:05 PM. And once again, I guess we got to do roll call. Beth Gott, you're here? Yep. Lawson?
I'm here.
Myself, Mark Good, I'm here. And I guess Jeff and Brett have both said they wouldn't be able to make it, so I'll take a motion to excuse their absences.
I'll make a motion to excuse Brett Witham and Jeff Good.
No,
Yeah.
Jeff Young.
Sorry. Jeff Young.
I'll second.
The good Jeff Young.
Okay. Okay. Well, motion to second excuse those two absences. All in favor, Beth? Lawson?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay. I don't see a reason to adjust the agenda at all. So, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes of March 8th?
I have. They look good to me.
I'll take a motion to approve them unless
I'll make a
someone,
motion to approve the minutes of March 8th as submitted.
And I will second it.
okay, motion second on the table to approve the minutes of March 8th as submitted. All in favor?
Yes?
Yep, aye.
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 Yep.
Yeah, we don't have to,
Great.
so used to doing it by Zoom that, you know. Okay, new business. Wolf wagon. Derek, why wolf wagon? I mean, honestly, I've been looking at this for a long time.
I've asked myself that question several times.
You don't know.
It's their camper has a Volkswagen license plate. They love their dogs and camper. And
Oh,
it's the
okay,
Volkswagen.
okay, good enough.
Most I know about it.
Wolf Wagon LLC and F.W. Thurston Company Incorporated, their application for proposed float systems, tax map, we won't go into that, okay. And we're here to determine the completeness of both applications. And the reason we have two, if you folks will recall, is because that's what the DEP wanted them to submit. So it makes it a little crazy for us. Essentially, they're the same.
Although there are different, like, I mean, they have different docks, they have different,
Right, right.
so do we need to go through it
Well,
twice?
that's what I was trying to determine, but you're right, there are different docks and stuff, so I guess we have to go through them individually, unfortunately. Okay. First of all, Derek, and Beth too, I want to apologize. I misunderstood you saying what type of work GOTS was going to do down there, so I thought that we might not have a quorum, that she'd have to recuse herself. So I just want to apologize.
That's okay. I
Hope it didn't cause any problems. I'm glad we got that clarified, and Beth can participate. Okay, Wolf Wagon first. Is it allowed use with planning board approval? Yes. And you know, for completeness, we don't have to vote on every individual one. And you'll
I'm
find
sorry.
this to be a
This is
little different.
completeness.
Huh?
This is completeness, we did a pre-application.
Yeah, so
prior
this is
meeting.
completeness, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And you'll also notice that we're so used to doing site plan review that the findings of fact are quite different here. Essentially, it's basically what we're defining complete, so. So you're on completeness now?
I'm with you,
Okay, a wolf wagon.
yes.
Okay, land use table 15 and 26, it's allowed use, we know that already.
Yep.
Minutes from the Harbor Committee meeting, February 3rd, 2022, that has been submitted, I noticed. Thank you for digging that up, Derek. One original, 9 copies, written materials, plus one original, 9 sets of maps. That has been submitted, right, Jesse? Okay. Record owner's name, address, and phone number, applicant's name, we've got that, and we've got the letter of authorization we requested. Locations of all building setbacks, yards, and buffers. Setbacks shown on plan tab 11.
Yep.
It's on site plan C1, correct? Yeah. So we're okay there.
And D2.
Let's see, names and addresses of all property owners and any and all property boundaries, including in application tab 3. This is what I was a little concerned about. I think if you remember, Derek, at the pre-application conference, we asked about submitting all the butters,
Right.
and we
I-
still don't have 22.
I had brought in an updated property owners list with John when I was reviewing at the end of last week, and he said he would provide.
Is that what's on our desk?
Yep, right here,
Well, where's that?
right there.
Oh. Thanks for pointing that out, Jesse. .22 is town of Tremont, isn't it, too? Yeah, yeah, I can't
That's
really.
it.
Oh, 17.
No.
No, and
Well, that's Ann Jones, okay. Ann Jones Schwartz, okay. And we have 31 and 40 now, right? Do we have 31?
I think just 30 was added, which was our Jason Butter, which is our property as well. But then John McDuffie is 28, one on the far side of
Who's 31?
Kenneth Beal?
It's beyond 28, right?
Yep.
Right.
Right. There's not enough on it.
Oh, okay, I see where it goes down, okay. Good enough, so I guess we got that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sketch map showing general location of the site within the town based on tax map, that's also in tab 3.
Yep.
Got that, okay. Boundaries of all contiguous property under total or partial control of the owner or applicant regardless of whether all or part is being developed. Tab 11. That's on the site plan itself, right? Okay. Tax map and lot number of the parcel or parcels on which project is located. That's on the application itself. Copy of the deed to the property. An option to purchase the property or other document to demonstrate right title or interest. We saw that at the pre-application conference. It's there in tab 2. Name, registration number, and seal of the person who prepared the plan if applicable. We have Tom's survey by Tom.
Actually, don't think it was by Thomas Benson.
Pardon?
It was,
I think it was by Joe Coffey.
Right, I think through Tom Benson, if I remember right, through his, Coffee was the
Oh, I see.
engineer of record.
You gotta read to the end of the paragraph?
Sorry. And also,
Yes, to the end.
Richard Day, yeah.
Boundary survey by Richard Day.
It's all there. It's all there. Looks great.
Okay. Evidence of the applicant's technical and financial capability to carry out the project as proposed. We do have a letter from the bank now,
Yep.
so you got plenty of money there. Zoning classification, existing conditions, zoning classifications. We know it's in the commercial fisheries maritime activity zone. It's shown in tab 11. Bearings and length of all property lines to be developed and the source of this information on plan. Source towns, records, deeds. Storm evacuation plan, we have that. Plan and/or documentation demonstrating the integrity of proposed dock during storm, tab 12, float specifications. I did see that earlier. What do you think? We all set there?
Yep, I am.
Harbor traffic impact study. I see that we have a little note here from our harbor master saying, it looks like it shows the basic entry and exit routes should satisfy the requirement, I believe. I went to, it's interesting, I went and looked at the ordinance again today. And it's really something that's not required of us. It says marina permit applications must contain the following information for referral to the harbor committee. So since it went by the harbor committee, they must have had all that information, right, in making their decision? Okay, good. And also the DEP permit states that the project should not cause any significant adverse impact to navigation. If anybody, I looked at it before, I'm sorry,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Overlay of the chart showing the relationship of this facility to its abutters, detailed moorings in the area, and those required for the proposal and rigging for securement purposes. 12, last page. That's an aerial photograph, correct? And Justin, I'm sure these are all marked correctly, right?
Yeah,
All right.
you guys did a good job with it.
Okay, access from shore shall be developed on soils appropriate for such uses and constructed so as to control erosion. The access from shores is elevated ramp over ledge, soil erosion control plan, tab 8, which we did look at it last time. There, look good, folks?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Location shall not interfere with developed or natural beach areas. There are no beach areas, either developed or natural. So nobody out there sunbathing or anything, right, Derek? Okay, facility shall be located so as to minimize adverse effects on fisheries. We do have that, the DEP said that they're all set there. Tab 4. Guys need to look at that? Okay,
There.
before. Facility shall be no larger in dimension than necessary to carry on the activity and be consistent with the surrounding character and uses of the area. We've got the Army Corps approval, tab 6.
That was not.
What's that? We're all set there. No new structure shall be built on, over, abutting a pier, dock, wharf, or other structure, blah, blah, blah. That's not applicable because no new structures are proposed to be built on, over, or abutting a pier, dock, wharf, or other structure. We okay there, folks? New permanent piers and docks on non-tidal water shall not be permitted. Not applicable because this is a tidal area. No existing structures built on, over, or abutting a pier, dock, wharf, or other structure extending below the normal high water line of water body or within a wetland shall be converted to residential dwelling units in any zone. There's no structures proposed on a pier, dock, wharf, or other structure. So that's not applicable. Vegetation may be removed in excess of the standards in Article 6B of this ordinance in order to conduct shoreline stabilization of an eroding shoreline, provided that a permit is obtained from a planning board. Construction equipment must access the shoreline by barge when feasible, as determined by the planning board. Approximately 72 square feet of grass to be removed. Elevated ramp sits on the ledge. Is a lot of that work going to be done by barge?
The majority will be off from the barge.
What's that?
Most of it is from the barge.
Yep. We okay there, folks?
Yep.
All marinas must provide actual 0.75 parking stalls per boat slip and mooring. Grandfathered parking prohibited. Dedicated drop-off areas are required at dockside at the rate of 1 per 20 slips and moorings. We have a breakdown of the parking. Now, Derek, are these going to be marked as for marina use only so that restaurant customers aren't going to be using them?
We haven't discussed about marking spots specific for slip use because a lot of them will be current fishermen. We haven't decided that, I guess. We can mark them.
We do know that parking for restaurant customers can be little bit of an overflow down there, and at least in the past it has been, so I would think that, these would have to be dedicated parking for the marina use, like putting up a sign or something,
We can do that.
yeah. You okay there, folks?
Yep.
And, that's it for that one, right? Okay. Board members, any questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'll take a vote to, or a motion to find this complete.
I'll make a motion that the Wolf Wagon application is complete.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second to find the Wolf Wagon LLC application complete. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Okay, unanimous. Okay. Now, we do a lot of the sameness here. So we go to the FWT part of the book. It's allowed use with the planning board approval. We know that. It's allowed use in the CFMA zone. We've got the harbor committee minutes once again. Got the receipt as part of the application, evidence of payment of the application. The copies have all been submitted correctly, okay. Record owner's name and address and phone number, and applicant's name, address, and phone number, we've got that, letter of authorization. Setbacks shown on tab 11. So on C1, I guess, and C2, or D2, right? We okay there?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
yep, looks great.
You okay? Names and addresses of all property owners of any and all property boundaries. It's included in the application tab 3. That's the same as the other one, right? So sketch plan map showing general location of the site within the town based on tax map. Included in application tab 3. Boundaries of all contiguous property under total partial control. The owner or applicant, whether, regardless of whether all or part is being developed. And on plan showing property boundary lines, tab 11. Okay, there,
Yep, that's great.
Yep.
tax map and lot number of the parcel or parcels on which the project is located. It's on the application. You have that one. Copy of the deed to the property. Once again, it's included. Tab 2. Name, registration number, and seal of the person who prepared the plan. Again, it's Tom and Benson, and the literal boundary lines by Richard Day. We've got that.
Yep.
Evidence of the applicant's technical and financial capability to carry out the project as proposed. Again, we have the bank letter. Zoning classifications, we know it's in the Commercial Fisheries Maritime Activity Zone. It's shown on the plan. Bearings and length of all property lines to be developed, and the source of this information is on the plan. Town records and deeds as a source. Storm evacuation plan. This is interesting. Not required based on accessory use to lobster pond, but it's still in here, right? Or is it only in the other one?
I think what John commented on the rest of the marina ones is to reference to the Wolf Wagon packet for the storm evacuation plan.
Yeah, I don't see why it should,
It's
it
tab
should be
12.
met then. Don't you think met?
Yes.
Well, it's in the same binder, but it's not part of the FWT applications. but, I mean,
There is one.
there certainly is one.
Yes.
I'm happy to use them, you know. To find it
Jesse,
complete.
Well, I see further down, he's marked, refer to tab 12 of the Wolfwagon
Oh,
application.
there it is, right.
Yeah.
But this one-
for
this
that,
one
yeah.
specifically is marked not required.
Yeah, I didn't know why it wasn't required there, but required in the other
Because
one.
I think because it's not considered a marine reservoir, I guess is what he's saying.
The lobster.
Accessory use. But it's still there. In the Wolfwagon application.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think we could find this met.
Yeah, you certainly could,
Yeah,
down below.
I agree.
Met. Get rid of not applicable. Plan and/or documentation demonstrating the integrity of proposed dock during storm. And here we say 12, tab
That's
12 of the
Okay.
Wolfwagon application. Yes, that's met. Harbor traffic study. Once again, the DEP permit and the nice little note that Justin wrote us. And overlay of the chart showing the relationship of this facility to its abutters, detailed moorings in the area and those required for the proposal and the rigging for securement purposes. That's once again tab 12 in the Wolfwagon application. Access from shore shall be developed on soils appropriate for such uses and constructed so as to control erosion, not applicable. Location shall not interfere with developed or natural beach areas. There's, once again, no beach areas. Facility shall be located so as to minimize adverse effects on fisheries. We do have the DEP saying that's fine. Facility shall be no larger in dimension than necessary to carry on the activity and be consistent with surrounding character and uses of the area. Tab 6, Army Corps approval. We okay there? And there's no new structures proposed to be built on, over, or abutting a pier, dock, wharf, or other structure, so that's not applicable. New permanent piers and docks on non-tidal water shall not be permitted. It's a tidal area again, so not applicable. There's no structures proposed on a pier, dock, wharf, or other structure, again, so that's not applicable. Vegetation to be removed, approximately 72 square feet of grass to be removed, elevated ramp sits on ledge. John, is this mark not met?
Yeah,
I think that's a mistake on his part.
Yeah, it's just in the wrong box.
Wrong box, so we're gonna find that met. unless-
Where's the vegetation being removed?
it's not.
Yeah, and why,
Is there vegetation being removed? No.
No.
Okay.
It's on the existing float over the water.
You're replacing a float.
Right.
It's just not applicable.
not applicable, okay.
But you are removing vegetation on the Wolfwagon.
Right.
Great.
Once again, it's the parking. Got the breakdown of the parking, 0.75 stalls per boat slip and mooring. Jesse, you have any idea why somebody long ago decided 0.75 was appropriate rather than 1?
No idea.
I think that's something we ought to consider changing.
I think part of the moorings may be because of fishermen having sternmen traveling with him sometimes. So sometimes it's one car, sometimes it's 2 cars. That's.
But it's never
Is it
3/4 of a
but
car.
is it ever happen- like, does anybody ever need their boat without a car?
You could ride a bike down there.
Or maybe 3/4 of the time, or 1/4 of the time, somebody's not at their boat. So it's like, if everybody drives their truck to the boat at the same time, the 4th person doesn't get
Yeah.
a spot. All right, whatever.
Anyway, it's been met.
Yeah.
It's something we ought to consider changing. Just for the heck of it.
They ride their bike. It's a pro bike policy, which is actually probably a good thing
Yeah.
when we get talking about our biking
I can
ordinance.
see Dean driving his bike down there with a trailer full of traps. Okay,
I'll make a motion to find the FW Thurston Company application complete.
I will second it.
motion a second to find the Thurston application complete. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3-0. All right. Now, we go on to a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at 6:34. Anybody want, yes, sir, could you give us your name, please?
John McDuffie, I'm a butter,
Yes?
on all sides. Well, no, not exactly all. The parking thing, just makes me curious, if you have X number of floats being added so that X number of boats could be at those floats, with marina customers or patrons, does the parking requirement say there have to be that number of parking spaces for that number of patrons, you know, and, or two of them, as I think I heard you talk about a minute ago? Or was that not in the application that you approved, that number of parking spaces?
Okay, if I understand you correctly, basically, the ordinance requires for each slip 0.75 parking spaces. So,
I didn't get that part of it, that answers my question.
yeah.
And the other part of it is, that means 24/7, so that even when the fellows have gone home and the boats are at the floats and the restaurant people are coming in and wanting a place to park, they cannot use those spaces?
Well, that's one reason I mentioned they should be dedicated spaces.
I heard that.
And I'm gonna guess Derek is going to agree to have them posted. But is anybody gonna police them?
Well, and I mean, is it just, the application does include total parking that includes parking for the restaurant. And so the ordinance calls out a certain number of parking spaces per table at the restaurant. And there are a certain number of required spaces, and there are more spaces available. So there are 77 required spaces per the ordinance. There are 91 total spaces. That includes restaurant employees and fishermen. Maybe someone could argue that Thurston's is more popular than the ordinance writers suggested or like foresaw. But I think that at this stage, it meets the ordinance requirements and then some.
Yeah, we're bound
We're
by,
adding 10 spots this spring.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
I mean, I did remember you told me that. The only question is, as you folks know, if you've been around there in the summertime, they're parking up every street, everything there is in people's driveways sometimes, and really making a nuisance of themselves. I know that probably isn't this ordinance thing, because that's a whole general area, it's not on private property or anything. So is the town doing anything about trying to deal with that problem, or can it be done in any way?
that's a question for our town manager and not the board. I mean,
I'd let you-
I understand the problem, and it's a
Yeah.
concern too. Anybody that drives down there knows that, you know, they're parking alongside the road but our hands are tied by the ordinance. It says there's required to have a certain number of spaces.
On that property that they're.
Yes, and they have met that,
Yes.
but it doesn't mean that there still isn't a problem. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what the parking ordinance would say about that.
It's the parking in general is a common issue with any place that's popular. I mean, the ordinance establishes a number, and if it turns out to be a popular place that has 3 times that per hour, there's nothing in the ordinance that says they have to come back and, you know, amend it, it just, that's the number
If
in
you're a
there,
successful
that's-
business, then
That's
different
the
numbers.
number in there,
Yeah.
that's.
But
what
but
they
as
require.
far as his concern about people like parking along Steamboat Wharf Road there, and is that an issue law enforcement can deal with?
If it's a designated no parking zone, then law enforcement can,
But it has to be designated no parking zone, okay,
but yes, if they're in a no parking zone, then the sheriff can ticket them.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You know, they quite often are.
We've told the sheriff to tone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's not a designated no parking zone, and it probably isn't, is it?
I'd have to double check, there is
Yeah.
no parking around there, but not all the way around. We did put up a no parking on Locust Point this past summer, because they were starting to park down Locust Point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
We
Of
did
course,
put up
the Lighthouse Road,
that.
Are they parking on the Lighthouse Road for Thurston?
There is no
Or maybe they're
parking.
parking at Thurston's for the Lighthouse.
There is no parking on the right-hand side of the road as you come towards Thurston's, but the trees have kind of
Right.
overgrown those signs.
Hmm.
So those, I don't know if the property owner or if the town has the right to maybe trim those back. So that'll help out, at least designate
Yeah.
those, but
Put a neon light around the north parking, like flashing.
we are trying
I
our
mean-
hardest to put up signage and do what we can.
does that answer your question, sir?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, thank
you know, if you have a concern, take it up with selectmen, I think is the place to go, not to the planning board.
Yeah, well, I was really asking what I had heard you talking about in this application. In
Yeah.
business, I didn't hear you say one space for each boat
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah,
But
it's
It is.
interesting. to
3/4 of a
that's
space.
part of it.
Right.
Anything else? Dean, yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple questions or whatever, or couple questions, couple comments or something.
Dean, come up a little closer, please, so I can hear you a bit better, sorry.
It's all right. Concerning the location of the floats, where they're going to be located on his plans and everything. There is in the comprehensive plan, it talks about maintaining commercial moorings or whatever. Where these are gonna be located, is gonna encroach on 4 to 5 existing moorings, potentially, highly likely, that these moorings are gonna have to be removed, and they're all commercial moorings. And the float system, up until the last document I saw where assignments of what boats can be tying up to certain places, it was always long-term or restaurant, and secondary use or off-season use would be for commercial moorings. I just think that by doing away with these commercial moorings, and if they're catering to, in the last document of what's gonna be used at each float, on the northern ones, there was no designation. So obviously they can be used for pleasure boats or whatever. So I feel like, go to the comp plan, or the recommendations of the comp plan, you're kind of going against what their intentions were of preserving commercial moorings by allowing these to be placed where they were. And from my past dealings with the harbor committee and stuff, because I was on the harbor committee when the dredges were put in, and when they set their float originally, the single one they have there, the harbor master at the time said that they had to, the setback area from the federal dredged can be used by the moorings. They are allowed to tail to the, outside of the setback area. And also, these floats, according to the plan, can go into the setback area. So you're gonna have an area there where basically, you're gonna have both rubbing against each other and everything else, that you'll leave them there. So, I mean, that's kind of a conflict, I think, that needs to be addressed, because also in the Corps of Engineers permit, it says that if these floats need to be moved because of navigation purposes and stuff, I mean, these permits and stuff that they have are all contingent on local approval of everything. If you read on them, all of them are. I just think there's some issues that need to be addressed as far as that part of it. I know the Harbor Committee has given their recommendation, but the Harbor Committee itself, that is in the description of their job or the duty, that is recommendation. But to me, it sounds like the harbor master has the ultimate authority, because he assigns floats, does this and that and everything else. So I think that there needs to be more investigating, or a certain finality as to the possible locations or what's gonna happen type deal. Cause like I say, that is a kind of an area that can be used by both uses. And I guess a second thing that I am questions about is the actual use of the lots. Currently, or originally, it was, the Wolf Wagon lot was Mike Radcliffe, Elizabeth Radcliffe or whatever, and then it was changed to Wolf Wagon. And now it says 2 lots, but it's actually being used by both Thurston's and the proposed lot that's gonna be now, for the Wolf Wagon Arena. I'm just wondering if this should be considered one actual parcel of land, or if it should be considered 2, and also in the future, that lot is capable, if, when it comes time, when Mike, or whoever decides they may wanna liquidate, you've got possibility of that lot is possibly sold for a house lot, because it's almost an acre, it's over the 40,000 square feet. So you're gonna run into problems there with grandfathering. You're gonna be able to grandfather restaurant parking on this lot. This lot is sold to something else, uses residential and stuff. I mean, it seems like there are a few discrepancies or stuff that needs to be ironed out concerning whether it's 1 lot or 2 lots type deal. And I guess, I had a couple of things, but I guess one other thing is, who's gonna actually determine if you guys allow the floats to be placed where they are? Who is actually gonna determine the exact location of these floats and stuff? Is it gonna be left up to the landowner? Because in the past, landowners have gotten stuff in places where it shouldn't be, and we've ended up giving the harbor away to the federal dredged area, away to private businesses and stuff. So I mean, I think that's something that needs to be, you know, established by, you know, either the town or somebody.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I think some of, we have to rely on the harbor committee and the harbor master for one thing. And Justin, do moorings have to be moved?
They will have to be adjusted, and there is a potential that some may not be able to be replaced. And Dean is correct in that shared zone, that the boats can tail into it, and that he has the right to push into that.
So your mooring would be affected?
Not mine,
Oh.
but there are, potentially, there were, from what my interpretation is, there are 2 moorings that have been taken away, but it's on like a temporary situation. And there are 3 moorings that are currently in place. And these will be determined, all of them will be determined, whether they can be put back or what's gonna happen to them once these floats are put in their actual spot. Because I know that 2 of them and potentially the third ones that are there now, all could conflict with access around these floats and everything. Because two of them right now lay on an easterly, southeast wind. They're right to the setback line right now. So you can't continue, you can't push them off into somebody else's boat and have boats banging out each other. Because I know a few years ago I measured off in Arena's floats to the closest mooring float was the town floats. And that's a fixed float. And that was 85 feet from the inside floats of Ahava Marina. So, for maneuverability and stuff like that or whatever. So I mean, it's basically looks like the three of those moorings there, two, potentially three, will have to be removed. And like I say, the other two, like I say, my understanding is they weren't reissued or anything like that, because it was waiting to see how this float thing progressed. So potentially there could be a loss of 5 commercial moorings. And with this thing here, the best case scenario is five berths, and one will be, I'll leave it at 5 berths, but the one at the restaurant is a restaurant used in the summer. The other 4 on the northern floats are not designated as commercial. That was one other thing that's in Dutton. I've kind of lost it right now. Had to do with the moorings and stuff.
Well, Justin, these 5 commercial moorings wouldn't be lost, they would just be moved, correct? First of all,
The space would be lost, I mean,
the what?
the space, the actual berth,
Yeah, okay.
right? Like Dean said too, and that, I didn't put back, one was Dave Thurston's float that, was removed from the dredge, and David Farley's mooring, both were close and good. One had negative impact on both parties, and both of those would definitely have negative impact on the float system.
Now, is there commercial moorings and non-commercial
That
moorings?
the whole pool surrounding the town dock and Thurston's is all commercial.
It's all commercial, okay.
Yeah,
And does this all
designated
stem from the issue involving the littoral line?
I don't think it stems from that, it's just, it's more so the federal dredge line.
The dredge line,
Yeah.
okay.
So the littoral boundary, we've already worked through that and adjusted, and that's, we went through the state, and the state said you need to take off the float to make it work, so there's navigation between the two wharves, essentially, and float systems.
And it's your opinion, there's no, it's an issue with some people, I understand that.
Right. So I need to go both ways on this.
So you can't just move them, you've lost them.
They, like Ian says, if you adjust one, you're gonna affect another. It's
Right.
just gonna go right down
This
the
one,
line. So, I mean, that's gonna have to be something that's done when, you know, if the floats go in, and then me and Derek have to work together to make this, to make a happy medium, really. So, so the town can still use that shared zone, and so he can use that zone.
So it's basically a working harbor, and you don't have a lot of luxury boats come in there, it's mostly
Right.
lobster boats or,
Most of the time, in summertime, the transient vessels have been up in the past few years.
And at Carlton's, he's got some pleasure boats in there.
Yep, and we rent slips too.
Yeah, Dean.
I remembered what else I was gonna say. In this, it looks like in the summer, like I say, up until the last thing where we specified what was gonna be tied up with things, these floats are gonna be used for recreational, restaurant, pleasure in the summer. And that is a loss, because in the summer, that's when you need the most fishing moorings also. I mean, in the winter, half the boats in the harbor are gone. So you don't need the commercial moorings at that time. So I mean, in the summer, everybody needs the mooring space in the summer. But I mean, you're trading off pleasure, restaurant versus commercial.
Yes, Derek?
So I think a lot of these items, we have reviewed and discussed through dozens of harbor committee meetings. And on the first, point, it is my understanding that it is roughly 2 moorings that will be adjusted, one potentially moved. One of the moorings was our mooring that we had 2 young fishermen that would put a skiff on. It was a fixed point mooring that we were required to remove, so that one it shouldn't be discussed, because that one was removed long ago. And as far as the setbacks, tailing in and outside, and that's just the Army Corps requirement. We both have access to it. We're meeting the setback that is required upon us by the Army Corps. So when Dean spoke about the spaces required for the lots, if they were split into separate lots, Thurston's operated with the same seating capacity that it had prior to Wolf Wagon. We met the requirements. They could be split at any time to function individually if they needed to be. They work better together. There's more parking. There's no reason to split them up. That's foolish. And as far as taking space, as far as placement of the floats and losing space, if anybody's lost space, it's the 7 Rice Road, which is Wolf Wagon, which has lost. If we could look at the plan, the town's placed floats well beyond into our littoral boundary, which we conceded to allow them to stay there. So we're not able to develop that property as far as it should be able to. So that's a huge loss of our own property.
Now, if I recall, at one time, your original plan would have required the town to actually move some of those floats, correct? Their own floats.
Correct.
And that's something you were legally allowed to do, correct?
We could have fought to push further to take legal action. And what it would have probably essentially done is when the town was up for a new permit, they wouldn't have been able to get a new permit to continue in that location because the abutter would have not allowed that.
Right, right.
So,
And since then, you've actually compromised and pulled back, scaled back what you originally wanted to do.
dramatically.
And as a result, the town has not had to move their floats or anything. And the access that they traditionally have had has been maintained. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually, yes, well, kind of. It's been shortened up, but the legal distance was 50 feet, and the state actually extended that another 20 feet. So it's,
50 feet is the sort of legal minimum
yes,
between
floats.
floats.
So we're at 85 now between existing and what we're putting in. We're 50 from the previous lease, I believe. But and to the point of Dean thinks we're going to lose commercial berthing. Thurston's provides more. I shouldn't say more, but we've over the years provided berthing for commercial fishermen for years, and up until this last year, at no cost, allow them to lay over the winter because they didn't, or in the summertime even, because they didn't have a mooring berth to even lay on. We intend to use a lot of the northern system for some older fishermen that aren't able to safely get to their boats and get their moorings off. So we, at first, look at our fishermen as a first priority, and we always have. And
When you
that's
say our fishermen, you're referring to people who fish out of Thurston's, right?
Correct.
Okay.
We have allowed them to use the restaurant float when they haven't had a place to tie up, to work on stuff. And that, we immediately push off restaurant boats to allow the commercial fishermen as a priority, because that's how our business was started. So we've always taken care of them.
Questions, anybody? Yes, Dean?
Are these guys willing to put in writing that they'll use them for commercial, for us only?
I'm sorry, what?
On these floats, are these guys willing to put it in writing that they will only be allowed for commercial fishing?
I don't think that's a requirement of our ordinance.
It has to do with tying into loss of commercial.
I understand you referred to the comprehensive plan, and I understand what the comprehensive plan's for. It informs the ordinance, but the comprehensive plan is not legally binding, I guess is the best way to say that. The ordinance is, and that's what we have to go by. And one of the things here is that we're relying on the recommendation of the Harbor Committee and the Harbor Master, who both says that the project's okay. I understand, it's tough down there, the harbor. I can't, as a pleasure boater, if I had a boat, could I get them moored anywhere? No. I'd be put on a waiting list for years. We have real issues, I understand that. But for this project, we have to rely on the ordinance, and I understand your concerns completely, but I don't see a lot of other people here voicing their concerns, and we already have the Harbor Committee, who we were relying on heavily for this, saying it's okay. We have Justin saying it's okay. So I don't know what else to say at this point.
Not to put Justin on the spot, but has he actually made a recommendation that yes, it's okay to go the way it is? Because he's already said there's gonna be a conflict there.
Right. So we've been working on this project for 7 years, since I started this job. And for the best interest of the harbor and the best interest of the property owner, we've considerably met both ways. And I don't know if you remember when they started this project, they were all the way up to the dredge line. They wanted like 300 feet of floats. We worked a lot together, pushing back, and so many meetings with town managers, lawyers, and surveyors, and every other meeting, it seemed like it just got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And now the state says, well, you adjusted this a little bit, and the Army Corps says you adjusted this a little bit, and we're kind of at a happy medium. It's not perfect for all parties, as you know, but it's just the understanding that we all came to for the state, the feds, the Harbor Committee, me, the lawyers, the planning board, the selectmen, and there's a lot of parties involved, and it's been a lot of time in the makings to get it so it works.
Plus the feds and the state as well.
It's not ideal on either end by any means, but I feel like we've worked pretty hard to get to this point. And that's
To keep it as a working harbor.
correct. So both people are giving, and I feel like we've met, and worked with both parties. So it's not ideal for everybody, but that's all I got.
Thank you. Unless anybody else has something to say, I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, take a motion to close the public hearing at 7:01.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion second to close the public hearing at 7:01. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, folks. Thanks, Dean. So now to the findings of fact, I guess. Before we go on, the board members, anybody have anything want to discuss among ourselves regarding the project?
I'd love to just ask Justin about how moorings work. If we're moving, or if this project requires a couple of moorings to get moved, Are those owned by somebody? Is it sort of the equivalent of like taking over somebody's land?
So
Or is it a different?
the town essentially owns the whole harbor, and we just lease them the spot for their boat. They are in charge of maintaining and providing the tackle and the rock and everything.
And is that lease every year?
Yes.
It's an annual
It's
lease.
an annual permit. Yeah.
Is there a guarantee or a right that they have to, like, can they count on having that in 5 years or 10 years?
Nope. I mean, as long as they maintain the requirements by the ordinance, we have to guarantee them a spot in the harbor. I mean, it doesn't say that they own the coordinates of this spot.
Okay. And so, we, the town, have a sort of obligation if we're gonna eliminate 1 or 2 or 3 moorings, we have to find another spot for them,
Suitable for that boat, yeah.
for that. Okay. Which makes your job harder, but
Correct.
we have a letter saying that it's doable, so.
And I'm sure a spot right near the town wharf is preferable to something out farther in another pool.
Right.
Yeah, so,
And everybody's different, and everybody likes different spots, and nobody wants to give up their spot,
yeah.
so,
Officially.
especially.
You said it, not me.
Yeah.
That helps.
Does that answer your
It
question?
does, yeah, yeah.
Anything else?
Can I get a spot and,
Yeah, you're on the waiting
I want
list.
something really close to Thursdays.
How many in the waiting list?
Currently like 40, yeah, it's like 7 or 8 years out.
It is in every harbor.
Sir, the public hearing's closed, but I'm gonna allow you, because you're a nice guy, to,
Not about anything about the public hearing, of course, it's just the question of scope. A scope on a mooring, you know, if the one boat is longer than the one next to it, then when this guy swings, he's gonna be in a bigger circle than the other guy. Is that something the harbor master can control in a way that would make that work better?
Yes.
wow.
that's part of his job.
Yeah, and it should be in the ordinance, and it's not.
And that, like,
And that's
so is it the length of the boat, but it's also the length of the line,
There-
and
Right, there's a lot of variables.
The type of mooring, right?
it makes
The type of mooring, the
laying out a
bottom chain, the top
foundation,
chain,
25-foot setback seem easy and straightforward. Stake in the ground and like, this is your 25-foot setback.
It's pretty hard to move and adjust those.
God.
Okay?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, findings of fact, Wolfwagon LLC. This is such a different way to go about this. You have a suggestion here, Justin? Jesse?
Or Justin. Anyone?
I would recommend reading through it, and if you make a motion to approve, I would just add, based on the above findings of fact,
So,
to your motion.
with this, unlike what we do with site plan, we don't really need to
one
do a
thing.
motion on each one.
No.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll read through this, and anybody stop me if they have a question or whatever. Does that sound good?
Sounds great, yeah.
And then at the end, we can make a motion and discuss it. Okay. From the land use table, item 15 and 26, piers, docks, wharves, bridges, and other structures and uses extending over or below the normal high water line is an allowed use in CFMA zone with planning board approval. We know that. Marinas are an allowed use in the CFMA zone with planning board approval. Copy of deed made part of application showing applicant has standing. Copy of receipt showing fees have been paid. Letter of authorization from Michael and Elizabeth, owners from the Radcliffe's owners of property, stating they authorize Derek LaPointe to act as their agent for the project. Letter from First National Bank stating sufficient funds to complete project. Minutes from Harbor Committee meeting February 3rd, 2022. Item 5C, motion to approve float expansion projects. Marina development. A storm evacuation plan is provided. inadequate to meet Hancock County and Tremont's emergency management protective directives. A plan and/or documentation stating adequate provision has been made to demonstrate the integrity of docks and floats during storms. See tab 12, Wolf Wagon application. A harbor traffic impact study narrative and DEP permit states no significant adverse impact to navigation. An overlay of harbor mooring shows no adverse impact on existing facilities. Piers, docks, structures, wharfs, bridges, and other structures and uses extending above or over or below normal high water line. The standards: access to proposed floats is existing. The existing ramp is to be replaced. There are no developed or natural beaches in the area. The proposed floats will be located so as to minimize adverse effects on fisheries. The facility is no larger in dimension than necessary to carry on the activity and is consistent with surrounding character and uses. No new structures are to be built over or abutting the pier. The proposed project is located in tidal waters. No residential dwelling units are proposed. 72 square feet of vegetation is to be removed as part of this project. Structures: only one pier exists on map 17 lot 25. No structure on floats. Okay, take a motion to approve or not to approve the Wolf Wagon LLC application for 7 new floats, an elevated ramp as shown on drawing D2 and made part of this approval. And if we're going to do that, make sure you cite the above, what I just read.
Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied.
Yep.
Great. I'll make a motion to approve the Wolf Wagon LLC per the findings of fact as articulated by Mark and written by John.
I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion, a second on the table to approve the Wolf Wagon LLC findings of fact and the application as read by me. I think that's enough, right? Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 3-0. And do we all have to come in and sign these?
I'm gonna give it to you.
Oh, while we're here, okay. Oh, that's great, that's great.
Here we are in person.
Oh, we're in person again. Okay. Now findings of fact for the F.W. Thurston Company. I'll once again read these. If they sound familiar, don't blame me. Number 15, land use table, item 15 and 26. Number 15, piers, docks, wharfs, bridges, and other structures and uses extending over or below the normal high water line is an allowed use in the CFMA zone with planning board approval. 16, marinas are allowed use in the CFMA zone with planning board approval. Copy of deed made part of application showing applicant is standing. Copy of receipt showing fees have been paid. Letter of authorization from the Radcliffes, the owners of the property, stating they authorized Derek LaPointe to act as their agent for the project. Letter from First National Bank stating sufficient funds to complete project. Minutes from Harbor Committee meeting February 3rd, 2022, item 5C, motion to approve float expansion projects. Article 5, marina development. 1, a storm evacuation plan is not required for accessory use to lobster pound. A plan and/or documentation stating adequate provision has been made to demonstrate the integrity of docks and floats during storms. A harbor traffic impact study narrative and DEP permit states no significant adverse impact to navigation. An overlay of harbor moorings shows no adverse impact on existing facilities. Article 5Q, piers, docks, structures, wharves, bridges, and other structures and uses extending over or below normal high water line standards. Access to proposed floats is existing. The existing ramp is to be replaced. There are no developed or natural beaches in the area. The proposed floats will be located so as to minimize adverse effects on fisheries. The facility is no larger in dimension than necessary to carry on the activity and is consistent with surrounding character and uses. No new structures are to be built over or abutting the pier. The proposed project is located in tidal waters. No residential dwelling units proposed. No vegetation to be removed as part of this project. Structures, only one pier exists on map 17, lot 29. No structure proposed on floats. Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the F.W. Thurston's, or not approve, the F.W. Thurston Company Incorporated findings of fact and application for 6 new floats, as shown on the drawing C1.
Before we make a motion, I just wanted to circle back to Article 5L, item 4, where
Hold
the
it.
finding of fact says an overlay of harbor moorings shows no adverse impacts on existing facilities, which I sort of believe as well, except that we just talked with Justin about how there is some adverse impact. Well, maybe that's not existing facilities. I don't know. Is a mooring a facility?
I understand what you're saying.
And so then maybe we amend that finding of fact to recognize that, I don't know, the impacts are minimal and are being addressed by the harbor master, or like,
Seems like a very good idea.
and I think that I understand correctly that when we're talking about the ones on Thurston's, right, those are the ones that are encroached on the moorings. It's not the wolf wagon.
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're on the right application, but I think there's a problem, like if we amend that finding of fact.
Right, to minimal.
Right.
So we could make a motion to approve
As amended.
with an amendment.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Want to tackle that?
I'll make an attempt. So I make a motion to approve the F.W. Thurston Company Incorporated application for 6 new floats, with the amendment of our finding of fact for Article 5L4 to state that an overlay of harbor moorings and discussion with harbor master indicate minimal impact on existing facilities that are adequately addressed by the harbor committee. Great. How's that sound?
Okay,
Second?
I second it.
Okay.
Oh, I just had to,
I know.
Digest that. Wrap your head around it.
I had to be kind
It's
of
getting late,
swish
right?
around in there.
Let's let it marinate.
Yeah.
Oh, do I second or third it? Okay, we have a motion and second on the table to approve the F.W. Thurston and Company application findings of fact as amended. Any discussion? You have the amendment? You wrote it down,
Just
okay,
wrote it
good. Okay. Hearing no discussion, call for a vote, all in favor? Aye. Yeah, okay, 3-0. Okay, I think that's all, except for. We already set the date for the next meeting?
We set the date for
The public hearing, so, yeah, okay,
for
okay.
So when was the public hearing,
Public hearing was 6 o'clock, April 12th.
Okay.
It's a Tuesday, so I'll take a motion to set the date for the next meeting, April 12th, following the public hearing
I'll
here.
make a motion to set the next meeting for April 12th, following the public hearing for Pointing Head in the Harvey Kelly room.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion second on the table to schedule our next regular meeting following the public hearing for Pointing Head on April 12th. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. Aye.
Aye.
3-0. And, so would you like to make a motion to adjourn, or you want to stay here longer?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Respectfully.
And
Motion's second on the table to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Great, thank you, folks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dustin.
Been a long way coming.
7 years?
Yeah, roughly, since we started with the idea.